Welcome back everyone to Supreme James Gaming. This will be going over my top 10 played games of 2021. Now, not to be confused, this is not all the games that came out in 2021, not all of them, but all the ones I specifically played myself and my thoughts kind of lining them up, because being busy throughout the year, I might not have been able to get to all 2021 titles, but most of them, I do have some games in there that I have played that are phenomenal. So yeah, let's get right into it, guys.
Number 10.
So, number 10 is going to be Guardians of the Galaxy, and I would say that I am very surprised about how good this game was going to be. I honestly thought that with how bad Marvel's Avengers was and the kind of playstyle they were bringing out with Star-Lord and how he just commands others, I kind of got this predetermined notion that it wasn't going to be very good, and it just kind of didn't make me want to buy it day one or give a lot of interest into it. So for the most part, I just let it go by, waited for it. Eventually went on sale relatively quickly, which is what I was surprised about. But overall, the story was phenomenal. It was way better than I thought it would be. It's based off of the comics, more or less. I'm not a big comic buff myself, especially when it comes to the superhero stuff, but I can say they did a really good job when it came to the voice acting, the story, graphics, everything. They played together really well for a good single player story, which I'm a huge fan of. I play a lot more single player than multiplayer myself, so overall, I highly recommend this game to anyone who is very finicky or scared to try it.
Number 9.
Moving on, so my number 9 of the year is going to be Tales of Arise. Now, I've been a big fan of the Tales RPG series for as long as I can remember. And this game itself, just, it was an easy day one buy for me. I really love this series. I always know what I'm going to get. A good story, different characters from different backgrounds working together to take down a common goal. And I always love that. It never gets too cheesy for me or too boring. This game really adds in a little more open world aspect to it too. There is a little bit of linearity, but as far as the crazy twists and endings that these games are known for, trust me, this one's here for it. And it is really good. I highly recommend picking this one up, giving it a shot if you're a big RPG fan. It's something I took my time playing, so no need to rush through it, just kind of enjoy it as you go.
Number 8.
So, number 8 for my top played games of 2021 was Halo Infinite. My god, I love this game. I wish it would have been higher on my list, but the one thing that kind of dragged me down was, spoiler free of course, that the pilot kind of nags you throughout the entire game, and that kind of just turned me off. It kind of killed my immersion a lot more than I would have liked. That is the only downside though. Everything else was phenomenal. The graphics, integrating an open world aspect to Master Chief and the Halo world itself. I really wish we would have been able to get this a long time ago, because just seeing how vast these big Halos are themselves and the stuff that can be on them, man, this is a really good step in the right direction. I'm just curious to see how far this is going to go itself. The story, while not knowing a lot of the lore myself, didn't make a whole lot of sense. I did understand bits and parts, but I might give it another couple playthroughs to kind of make sure I understand things. But definitely highly recommend it. It's on Game Pass. I would play through it just to experience it. It was phenomenal, even without the co-op.
Number 7.
On to the next one. Number 7 is Tokyo Mirage Sessions FE. Now, this is a game that I took my time playing a lot of, and it was a very long JRPG on the Nintendo Switch exclusively, ported from the Wii U, which is where I originally played it, but I was able to finish it and everything on the Switch. Now, it took me, give or take, about 70 to 75 hours, and I did everything. I 100%ed that game, and I can say I really loved it, and what I got out of it was that it is like a love child between Fire Emblem and Persona. So I really like that they kind of meshed that together and pulled a lot of Easter eggs and cool things together for that. I only know tidbits of those series, but I was able to kind of piece together that, and I really liked it. So I highly recommend giving that game a shot. If you were looking for a good JRPG in general for the Switch, because it's really hit or miss, I definitely recommend that one. It'll keep you busy. The characters are good, the story is good, you're going to get what you want out of it. It kind of gave me a lot more bigger Persona vibes than Fire Emblem, though, as it is a turn-based RPG.
Number 6.
Going into number 6, Resident Evil Village. Now, This was probably one of my most hyped games of this year, and I can honestly say that it didn't let me down much. Now, honestly, I wanted to put this one way higher, but there was a distinct lack of horror in it. I felt like the developers gave up on the horror way too early, and they should have continued it throughout, and this game would have been my number one. Pretty much after the second segment, there is a dollhouse you go through. After that horror, like, that was the peak for me. There might have been more that got others, but that was all that I could find. And the rest of it just seemed like a really fast-paced, action adventure, which I do love my action, but I don't think of Resident Evil as being only an action game. So overall, the graphics were great, motion capture phenomenal. I really liked the next step in Ethan's story on Resident Evil Village. Playing as him and going through all these trials to save his daughter, phenomenal, can't complain. The story was it felt like it wrapped up a little bit, but they left it open for more, so I'm really curious to see the direction they take this in. And they throw me back a little more horror into the next one, still have the action too with a good balance, then, it's definitely going to be a 10 out of 10 for me on the next one.
Number 5.
Number 5 is going to be Monster Hunter Stories Ruined 2. Now, this kind of took me by surprise, as I am not the biggest Monster Hunter fan. I don't play the traditional one as much, but this one was a sequel to one on 3DS, which I had not played, and gave it a shot, as I was told it was a turn-based JRPG, and that is right up my alley. So I ended up playing all the way through it. Every other aspect of Monster Hunter was in this game, and it was amazing. But I liked the difference in combat. This game really made me want to keep playing it and do even more post-game. I didn't feel like I was spending 45 minutes to 2 hours trying to kill a monster just to fail to get apart. Like, it really captured what I wanted in turn-based. Gave me time to think and strategize and, create different opportunities, and being able to get your own monsties, as they call them, the monsters to have as pets and to ride and build friendships with. That was definitely new, and I really like that. I hope this has a big following going forward, and I will definitely be playing the next one, as like the cell shading graphics I'm always a big sucker for, so it kind of got me there.
Number 4.
Number 4 is God of War. Now, I know, I played this game way too late from when it came out, and I've heard nothing but amazing things, but when I first played this game, even in the first hour to two, I was blown away. Now, granted, graphics are great, motion capture, all the performance phenomenal. But what really got me was the story. They were able to reinvent and craft Kratos' story from the old ones in a new combat style, which when you usually tear away from an original formula, it's really hit or miss if it's going to go well with the audience. I think Santa Monica Studios did an amazing job with this game. I would say this is one of the few games alongside the Tokyo Mirage that I 100%ed God of War. I got everything. I looked in every nook and cranny. I exhausted all dialogue options. I fell in love and immersed in this Norse mythological world. I am very excited for the sequel, and I really want to see what it brings for me going forward as well.
Number 3.
Number 3 is, of course, Zelda Breath of the Wild. And again, I know I'm a little late to the game on these, and that's why I said these are games I played in 2021. I gave my first shot at Zelda Breath of the Wild, and man, am I upset that I did not play this a whole lot sooner. This game is amazing. It is truly an open world Zelda game with a sandbox that allows you to travel, traverse, and go anywhere you want to solve anything in any order, or go straight to the ending if you're feeling confident and amazing. I love that aspect. There's so much freedom in this game. Sometimes it scares me to not know what the heck to do next, but I usually stick to my roots and like to gather and craft and kind of build my character up before I go to anything, so I'm working through to build up everything and go take down Ganon. I definitely love that game. I love streaming it. The cell shading graphics, again, just blow me away with what Nintendo has been able to accomplish with that game, and I'm very excited to see the sequel and what that is going to hold in the future.
Number 2.
Now, number 2 is Yakuza Like a Dragon. This game was so good that I still like going back to that game, even after getting everything 100% completed. on there to just kind of see what extra stuff I may or may not have missed talking to people or just seeing different things. Regardless, because I feel like there's so much more in that game. You wouldn't think it's so huge, but the story was a 10 out of 10 for me on that. Man, that one was also a turn-based RPG style, which I guess deviated from the older Yakuza style games, and I'm not gonna complain. As I said, that's my style and I love it. And man, did the story really pull you in. And they even had a post game that you could go and do, and a whole bunch of side quests that most games don't even have or even offer, or if they do, it's usually in a DLC. But this game had it all the mini games. And granted, as my first Yakuza game, I didn't realize some of these mini games have just kind of been throughout the series, but I feel like they've evolved and gone even above and beyond that. And I fought myself through, they even have post-game dungeons, and I fought myself through those, and those really test your strength. It doesn't matter if you're at max level, like, you have to really be strategic and think about it. There's different roles, different characters you swap in and out, elemental differences. Like, I really love that they added so much into it, strategy-wise, to make you think about how to beat your opponent instead of just being able to mash a few buttons. Definitely, I would buy this game over and over just to experience it. I still listen to the soundtrack as I go to work, you know, outside of that game to this day. I love it and enjoy it that much. I think it is phenomenal, like I said, and the fact that I played it on Game Pass myself made it that much more easier access to do it instead of spending $60. But if it was $60, I would buy it again and again.
Number 1.
Now, my number one most played game that I played, that I had a hard time really trying to figure out the number one slot, but I decided to give it to this game because I feel like it pushed me to solve and figure things out way more than any of the others on this list. And it's gonna be a very controversial or unexpected one, but my number one most played game of this year is Atelier Ryza 2 Lost Legends. Now, this game really put alchemy and crafting above all else, and it is the first Atelier series game I have played myself. I thought I was walking into a turn-based RPG style game. Let me tell you, I was very wrong. I walked into a game where you have to craft and learn and grow and solve different puzzles and mini quests to get certain items. Now, I can say there is an excessive amount of gathering and some loot drops that are kind of chancy, but overall, I like that it made me think of how the alchemy system works. That was the biggest part of this game for me. The characters stood out, but learning how to craft the items to go forward was amazing. Like, you can't just overpower your way through this RPG. You have to craft items, armor, and weapons to get you and your allies through this game, and to progress the story with certain items as well. You have to think about certain things, as well as it lets you decorate your house. You have a cute little pet with you. Like, this game, it's what got me a PS5. I know that sounds silly, but I'm absolutely glad that I pushed myself to play and try this game in this series. It makes me hopeful to try the other games in this series, and I absolutely enjoy crafting to the extent that this game has pushed me. And I know if this is definitely an easier entry, as it was stated, for the Atelier series, I will be giving the others a try myself. And I can't say enough good things about it. There's nothing bad about it at all. I think it's really well paced, and it does things well, because even if you feel like you finished the story early, there's so much post-game stuff, there's so much more crafting, you're never truly feeling like you're done with the game. And like I said, I chose this as number one because it has pushed me mentally and strategically to think and figure out how it worked. I was writing on paper, figuring out what goes to what. You have to craft certain levels of, and there's like intensity, quality, quantity, different items go into different things depending on, you want low and high quality. You don't always want to go for a high. There's a lot more aspects to it, and I don't want to bore you with too many specifics, but I highly recommend, if you're a big fan of like crafting and figuring things out yourself, that this is honestly the game for you. And like I said, I give this one my 10 out of 10 approval as my number one game I played this year. out of all the others. And now, that is Supreme James Gaming's top 10 played games of 2021. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know if you agreed or disagreed, if you felt like some should have been higher or lower, maybe what yours were out of the year that you've played, and what you thought. But I hope everyone has a safe and happy 2022, and I'll see you guys in the next one.